Okay, let's talk about the sales cycle now. The sales cycle is the life and blood of a sales manager, of a salesperson, and it tells the salesperson what's going on. It's very important. A sales cycle is a unit of time. It's the time from the very first phone call when you first talk to a prospect until you get a check. Okay, that could be as little as 30 seconds, a minute, a real quick transaction. Like if you're selling donuts, and someone says, I want the glazed donut, they give you money. That's a sales cycle, very quick. Or it could be a very long-term thing. If you're selling nuclear reactors, say, to a government, that could take years. A sales cycle is a unit of time, and that's very important to know, because what you're trying to do as a salesperson is shorten that length of time, right? So you can go make another sale. One way of looking at it is if you're a salesperson and you're just going to be persistent, maybe over some period of time you could sell a widget to someone. It might take you a week, it might take you 6 months or a year, but gosh darn it, you're determined. Well, that's all hope. It's all kind of like, I don't know when it's going to happen. I just want it to happen real badly. So inexperienced and unconsciously incompetent salesperson who has a lot of tenacity may think it's a good thing to just pursue a sale. I'm going to be aggressive and never give up. Well, those are the old days, okay? I'm trying to help you understand. Once you understand what the sales cycle is, and I just told you a period of time, there are steps of things that have to happen throughout that process, right? If you can understand what that sales cycle looks like, what kind of things have to happen within that sales cycle to close a sale, then what you have to do is just simply go from one step to the next. Because remember our comment about statistics. Everything is statistical. If you make a certain event happen consistently, that increases your chances of closing that sale. So what you need to do then is understand what those steps are. Put them down on a piece of paper and check them off as you go through. It's a lot easier to eat a hamburger one bite at a time instead of stuffing the whole thing in your mouth. Right? That's what I was talking about, is you're just simply going from one small step to the next one, okay? And so that if you have a scientific process, a picture of what steps need to happen to close a sale, then all this becomes very elementary. It's all very simple. You're not saying, oh my gosh, am I going to get a sale? Am I going to make my quota next month? Am I going to get a commission check? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? No, you don't look at it that way. What you look at is your sales cycle, and statistically, based on the data that you get from experience in closing other sales, what you do is create that picture. As you involve yourself in a sales cycle on any given prospect, okay, as you go through any particular deal, and you might have 20, 30, 100 deals going at any one time, you can understand where you are within that selling process by those events that happen within the sales cycle. If I'm being too confusing, let me tell you what I mean. Asking questions is basically how you move a prospect down the sales cycle. Now, here's one little rule of thumb you might want to write down. No one buys anything unless they want it or they need it. Yeah, you may talk somebody into something, but they're going to have buyer's remorse. They're not going to want it. It's going to be a bad deal for both parties. So to have a solid sale, an ethical sale, and something really that you'd be proud of, and something that really makes sense, you want that customer to be happy with their purchase, right? Whether it's a product or a service. And hopefully you're selling something, a product or service, that is ethical and respectable. Okay, so let's assume that all those things are in place. What you want to do is ask a lot of questions and find out if this product suits this customer. Because what you're going to do, and here's another thing you're going to write down. You ready? The other thing you're going to write down is the customer is going to sell himself. You're not going to sell anybody anything. But what you're going to try to do is get that customer, and again, I don't know whether you're selling nuclear reactors or donuts. It doesn't matter. You're going to get that customer to admit, to vocally make sounds come out of their mouth, to admit they want this or they need this. That's our objective. So what you need to do is ask questions in a professional way, whether you're selling donuts or nuclear reactors, in a way that's professional, that's representative of your knowledge of the industry. Let's the customer know that you're confident and feel comfortable in selling this product. Most people don't need convincing. What they want is the confidence. They've already made up their mind most of the time. Now, there might be some features that you might need to convey to someone, but here's another rule I want you to write down. Nobody buys features. They buy benefits. And I'll talk more on that in a moment, and I might even set up a special presentation just for features and benefits and what that means, because it's real easy to talk about features if you're a salesperson. One thing that a lot of salespeople fell in the trap of during the internet days was feature selling. Hey, this is really cool. You remember that? Where people talk about, oh, this software is really cool. It does this and it does that. It does this and does that. Technical people are typically not known as the best salespeople. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. And they don't really know how to talk about benefits. A lot of salespeople think that the benefits are obvious. Let me give you an example of a benefit. A benefit is something that saves you time or saves you money, makes you feel good, makes you feel better, makes you competitive, makes you win, as opposed to losing. These are all benefits. What's the payoff? What's the takeaway? What do you get out of it? And another way of experimenting with yourself on is something a feature or a benefit is to keep saying so what after someone makes a statement or you make your own statement. You say so what, and then you can answer that. And then you say so what again, and you keep answering that until it sounds silly to answer that question anymore. What you want to do is, and this all relates back to the sales cycle, okay? Because all of these steps, all these questions that you're going to ask, I want you to make a list of them on a piece of paper or in a computer, however you take your notes. This becomes your sales cycle. And as you take this customer, as you check off the answers to the questions that you ask, you are moving down the sales cycle. So then the objective, obviously, is to make that sales cycle shorter so that when two people walk in, you have time to go through the sales cycle real quickly with one person and handle the next one so you can make 2 sales and double your income. And by asking questions, you can sound very intelligent without knowing a whole lot. It always helps to know your industry and know more, and I want you to certainly educate yourself on whatever you're selling. But the whole idea here is, and I'll conclude on the sales cycle, you want to create a series of events, and as you get further and further down the sales cycle, as you take your prospect arm in arm down this sales cycle, you can create basically a very good crystal ball. You can predict how many sales you're going to get. Now granted, we're going to use the concept of statistics on this, but if you get 10 people, them all 10% closed, and I'm not making 10% up like you guess what 10% is. You go historically on 100 sales and you find out what happened on all those sales and where they were in the process to calculate what your 10% is. But if you get 10 people at 10% closed, statistically, one of those will turn into a sale. It has to, right? So this whole thing of sales can then become predictable. I mean, you can say, I've got 1 deal at 30% closed, I've got 2 deals at 50% closed, I've got 6 deals at 60% closed, and then you can say, well, what's the ticket size? If a lawnmower is $495, that's the end result, that's the payoff. You can actually calculate what your estimated commissions and sales are going to be for that month or day or week or whatever time period you want to use. This is why sales is exciting to me. It's fun to me because it's predictable, not because it's the thrill of the kill, even though I enjoy that too. If I'm going to go duck hunting, I want to know the ducks are there. Or if I'm going to go deer hunting, I'm not going to go sit in a tree and freeze to death. I'm going to talk to the guy before that was there the day before and how many deer they see and how many deer they kill. I mean, I want to know that I'm going to kill a deer when I go out there, okay? That's what selling is to me, and that's what a understanding of the sales cycle will do for you. It'll make your sales predictable. It'll take the fear out of sales, of not knowing if you're going to have a job next year or next month. As a salesperson, and to the benefit of a sales manager, your boss, this is what your sales meeting should look like. Boss, I've got 6 deals at 60%, 4 deals at 30%, 12 deals at 90%. It becomes a process, not, well, I'm talking to 6 people and I sure hope something happens there. I feel good about it. All that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any difference at all. It's ridiculous. That's hope. That's a salesperson trying to bamboozle his sales manager. The sales manager is at loss too because he doesn't know whether to believe the salesperson or not. You see where I'm going with all this here? So this gives the sales manager a way to manage the salesperson. Because here's the exciting part. Let's say you have 20 deals at 40% close, and you have one deal that's gone on past that. It's obvious where you're having a problem. As a salesperson, you can huddle with your sales manager or vice versa and say, look, all these deals are at 40% closed. What event happens at 40% closed that you're having a hard time getting past? Well, maybe it's a certain question you're asking. Maybe it's a way you're asking it. So then that's what sales meetings become as well. They evolve into, let's find a solution to help you get your prospects from 40% closed to 50% closed. Now, it's not about getting them to 100% closed, because we're not trying to stuff the whole burger in our mouth. We're just trying to go from 40 to 50. And then you let the salesperson go back on their way, and the salesperson accomplishes 40 to 50, so now they're working on 50 to 60. They're chewing that next bite. And it's a whole lot easier to chew one bite at a time than stuff the whole thing in your mouth. You see why it's so important to understand the sales cycle? And I don't mean just understand the big sales cycle as a big wheel. I mean understand the spokes, understand the steps. Okay? So in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to develop those steps. And then we'll talk about questions and answers and techniques and trial closes and how do you know when it's really 60%. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about. But really, understanding the sales cycle and going step by step makes sales so easy. And sales managers and salespeople, I'm talking to both of y'all now, this process is something that is easy to implement. Okay, this is not rocket science. This is not some complicated sales formula that you have a bunch of color-coded stuff and you've got to keep track of stuff and fill out reports. And no, this is something that I'm trying to get the light bulb to click on everybody's head. Okay, I want everyone to go, oh, okay, I get it. It's a new way of thinking about sales. It's a new way of thinking about prospects. It's a new way of managing yourself, managing your salespeople. And here's another thing. If you're a salesperson and sales are slow, economies change, industries change, businesses change, and you've got a lot of leads and you've got a clear reporting mechanism for the sales cycle and where you are, it can help you keep your job. Your boss can say, you know what, I see you've got a lot in the pipeline. I can see that things are slow right now, but I can also see that you're going to be closing some deals because you've shown me how statistically a certain number of these are going to close. Heck yeah, we want you to stay. Because that sales manager or his boss, the president of the company or VP of sales, he's a statistician too. He's seeing and estimating what the odds are of these deals closing. So stick with this. It's starting to get fun now.